Hi everybody, this is Oksana and today we're going to make this really fun little butterfly pendant. So originally I had this tiny little butterfly stone and I was experimenting until I figured out how to wrap it. And then I thought, well, this will be a good thing to share with people because what if you come across a butterfly shape? It's kind of a unique shape to wrap, but I didn't have any more stones. But I was able to make myself this butterfly out of resin because I actually had a little mold in the shape of a butterfly from like a really old little kit that my daughter had of like play jewelry. So that's how I made this butterfly, but perhaps you have a butterfly of your own, whether you made it or you purchased it. You can find butterflies on Etsy that are, carved out of gemstones or made out of plastic or resin. So if you ever wondered how to wrap this tricky shape, I'm going to show you how to do it in this video. So let's get started. So we're going to start with one piece of 20 gauge square copper wire. This is dead soft wire and I purchased it from RioGrande.com and the length of it is 14 inches, which is probably too long, but the butterfly I made for this video is kind of a big one. This is just a resin one that I made and it's just kind of a unique shape. It's actually even hard to measure, so I guess I'll measure the widest part here from the biggest wing to the other biggest wing, and it's 1.5 inches at the widest part, and then if you measure the height it's just a little bit over an inch, but it doesn't matter. This technique is going to help you regardless of the size, because I've also used it on a really small size butterfly as well. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to take this wire and fold it in half so that we can determine the middle. And here in the middle, now that we know that this is the middle, we're just going to grab it with our pliers just like this, and then we are going to put these two wires together so they're nice and side by side. Because it's square, if this is happening, so it's a good example to show you. Like this side is good, you can see the flat side of the square, but this got a little twisted and you see that angle of the square. So I'm just going to take it and just kind of turn it inwards and do just a little on this side as well, and that way they're nice and lined up and the flat sides of the square are nice and lined up. So you might have to do that just depending on how your wire comes together, but basically we just made this little gap up here by doing this. And the reason we did that is this is going to go on the back of our butterfly, and we are going to need some thin half-round wire to connect this first. This is the wire that I'm using. It's 24 gauge half-round wire. Again, it's also copper dead soft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my wire like this by wrapping it around just this one wire here to get it started, and now I am wrapping around both, and because it's half-round wire it's easier to just guide it with this hand and turn it with the other hand. That way when you're guiding it you can make sure that the flat side is down and the rounded side is up. So we're just going to do this for a little bit. This portion has to reach around the bottom part of the butterfly so that these wires stay together and don't separate. We are going to separate them up here, but here in the beginning they need to be together, so this is probably adequate. You can always check by holding it next to your butterfly. I'll show you what that looks like in a second, but first I'm just gonna trim and grab my pliers here and press down that little wire end. So you want all the wire ends to be on the same side. So this is my wire end. That means the end of this other wire is going to be on this side as well. So here it is. Here's the wire. So I'm going to trim it and then push that wire end downwards and into that gap there. And that way it's on the same side as my other wire end. So here's my wire ends, both on the same side. So now I can take my butterfly. I can put this side with the ends, because the ends need to get covered up, here like this on the back of the butterfly. And then I'm going to bend. This wrapped portion is going to go around the bottom of the butterfly, the bottom middle. And then here is what it looks like from the front. So on the front, what you want to do with these wires here is you want to bend them to the sides so that they look kind of even and equal, like this. So let's put the butterfly back in. All right. So it might be slippery, just trying to kind of balance it there in the middle as we bend these wires from front to back. Okay, so after I've bent them, I'm taking a look. Does that look even or did it shift? Okay, so that looks good. So now here on the back, where these wires now are, I'm going to bend them like this. Let's do one at a time. And then when the wire reaches this little thing that we did in the beginning, I'm going to bend it up. So it's like right in the middle. And then with the other one as well, I'm going to bend it so it's going straight up like this, and you can even just come in here afterwards and try to kind of fix that with your pliers so nice and centered, because this is going to be the bail. So you want it to just be coming straight up here. So now we're going to grab our half round wire again. It's just attached to the spool, and we want to start with a nice long tail end of like a couple of inches, okay, like 2 inches. I'm just eyeballing it. However is easier for you to wrap. It's kind of easier for me to go like this and wrap in this direction. So I'm putting that end under here and I'm wrapping around just these 2 wires. Oops, that's the wrong way. We want it to be the flat side facing the wires and the rounded side facing us here. So you can lift these up a little bit if you need so that you can get in there. It might take a few wraps to kind of stabilize everything. See, my wires are just kind of twisting around, so I'll just put them back. So I do need to turn this whole piece. The butterfly shouldn't be able to fall out though. And now that I have a few wraps going, I'm just going to pull on this end to tighten, and I'm going to press on those wraps that I made, and that is going to make it kind of more stable and make these wires so they're no longer moving around and crisscrossing each other. So I'm just going to push this down so it's at the beginning of our 2 wires, and I'm just going to keep going with this by turning the butterfly and guiding this wire. It's a little bit lifted, as you can see. We'll push it back down, but for now, it needs to be lifted, otherwise I won't be able to get in here with this thin wire. And we're just going to do this for a little bit. I'll show you how long. It needs to be long enough to be the bail, so it's going to go all the way up and just kind of bend forward So I'm just gonna keep going with this, and I'll be back in a minute when it's a little bit longer. All right, so it's approaching a good height here. You basically want, so some of it's hidden in the back, this part that's sticking up, you want it to be long enough where you can curve it forward to make the bail. The bail is where your necklace is gonna go through, and you can obviously make it taller and make a larger bail. It's up to you, whatever you prefer. I think this is good enough for me. It's not gonna be a particularly large bail, but it'll be big enough for my cord necklace to fit through. So I'm just pressing down on everything like this to make it nice and flat. Now I can press this down up against the butterfly. Then I'm gonna separate these two like that so that I can finish the wire. So I don't want it to unravel, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it around just this wire here. Like that. And now I'm gonna bring it this way and then wrap it around this other wire. And in the end of that, it's coming out in between the wires facing us if we're looking this way. And that's what we want. So we can trim it now because this is a part that's going to be pointing down. So you won't see it. Oops, so let me zoom in now. So this is how it ended up looking on the side that we're going to see. So let me just push this down, make it nice and even. And now you can bend it. We're still going to use this wire end. We'll use it in a minute, so don't trim that off. So I'm just bending it into my bail. Pretty much have to do this with your fingers. It's kind of hard to get in there with any sort of tools. So now this is a bail for the necklace, and we're going to curve these two wires, try to just get a nice even curve until they are lined up with the other wire. So not on top of them, crossing over them, but just right up against them, next to them like this. All right, so we'll finish those off. First, let's trim them. So I'm gonna trim it by leaving a little end here because I'm gonna make a little swirl. So the key here is trying to get the same length on both sides. You can measure, or you can just eyeball it. I think that's the same. Maybe this is just a smidge longer. All right, so let's finish off this little tail end so it's out of our way here, and then we'll work on making our swirls. All right, so here's our little end, and basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna use it to connect because this isn't connected yet. So theoretically, if I like grab it with my pliers, I can just lift it up, and that's not good. So I'm gonna put my wire underneath it. You might have to lift it up a little bit, and you want it to go underneath as well as underneath this other wire, so that when I pull, you'll see here we are connecting it. See that? It's being connected now. And then when I come down like this, I'm gonna wrap it around just this wire here to finish it off. And now this bit is connected and it's not gonna go anywhere. So to finish it off, you wanna wrap it a bunch of times just to make sure it's a secure wrap that's not gonna unravel if it gets pulled or like caught on anything accidentally. So I would recommend at least maybe 5 or 6 wraps, or you can just bring this all the way down and wrap as long as you can until you either run out of the thin wire or run out of space on that thicker wire. All right, so this looks good. Nice long wrap. I'm just gonna trim it and press down on that little wire end there and tuck it in here. So one thing I want to point out is, see how there's a gap there for our bail, but the butterfly isn't moving up and down, even though theoretically there's space up there. What's happening is these wires here, these ones, are holding it in a narrow portion between the two wings, so it can't move up because this wing is wider, so it like doesn't fit down, and this wing becomes wider here, so that's why it can't move in this direction either. So I'm just letting you know that, because I know every butterfly is different, and so if the shape of your butterfly is such that there isn't this little indent in between the wings, this might not work and you might have to adjust it. So just keep that in mind, that this is how it's being held from moving up and down. So now that we've done that, I'm gonna grab my round nose pliers and I'm going to squish. This is how I do my swirls. You can do it whatever your preferred method is, but I like to kind of squish the little tip of the wire, and then I go ahead and I turn and make the little swirl like this. And then I just press down on it. Hopefully you can see okay. I think because the butterfly is pretty shiny, kind of makes it harder to see the wire sometimes because the wire is also shiny. There you go. So that's the little swirl that I made. So now the difficult part is going to be making an identical swirl here on this other side. Let's see. It's a little bit smaller. Let's see if I can kind of open that up a little bit. And get in here, press down on that. All right, so that's good. I think they are similar enough. You can always try to adjust with your pliers a little bit. So all we have to do is just connect those swirls, because obviously they're just loose right now and this bail can just lift up. So for the attachment, we are going to need 2 little pieces, one for each swirl, of the half round wire that we've been using. So just cut yourself 2 small pieces. These are probably like 1 inch or 2 long, or 3, 3 inches long. I just like them longer because I like having the ends, even though I end up trimming the ends off. It just gives me more like space to move, I guess. So you're gonna take one of these, the flat side facing you, and you're gonna work it underneath both this wire and the swirl, because we wanna attach the swirl and that wire together. Okay, so work it underneath both of those. Let me just grab my pliers. And I'm just gonna put it like halfway, like this. So I'm just gonna grab one end here, bring it down this way. Let me zoom in a little bit. Like this, and I can make the attachment here by just wrapping around this wire only. Oh, this little wire just doesn't want to go under it though. So I'm just going to trim off the end because it got all bent up, out of shape. And I'm just gonna see if I can work it under there. There we go. All right, so I want it to be on the other side of the swirl here like this. And I'm just pulling on it and pull on the other one as well. So basically it's wrapped around and I'm wrapping it around only this one now because I just want to attach it so that I can trim it off. So I'm going to wrap several more times. There's my little wire coming out. All right, so that's one wrap. And another wrap. All right, maybe one more and then we're probably good to go. There we go. That looks like a good attachment. It's not going anywhere, so I'm leaving a little end when I trim the wire because I'm going to take that little end, I'm going to kind of curve it down with my pliers and I'm going to push down on it, and that's going to basically just hide away that little wire end and just tuck it under there. Let me just push all of that together. So here's the little wrap that I made, and here's this little connection to the swirl. So you can just wrap around this wire, or you can make a second little wrap around the swirl and the wire. I think one wrap is enough, but I'll just do a second one just in case. So I'm going around the swirl and around the wire, and when I pull that tight, you see a second little wrap has appeared next to the first one. So now they're definitely very well connected, and I can wrap around only this wire. So basically same thing as we did on the other end there. I'm just gonna wrap a bunch of times around this wire only, just to ensure that my connection is strong and not going to unravel. And then after I've done a few of these little wraps, I'm gonna trim and tuck away that little wire end. So trimming that. And now I'm gonna tuck away this little wire end, just like that. You can tighten this all up. And there we have one of the attachments. And now we just do the same exact thing here on the other side. So putting it underneath. This one has like a bigger gap, so it's much easier. I didn't have to struggle to get the wire under there. Although I might have to struggle to get it under this one. There we go. So pull on it and then pull on the other one as well. Oh, looks like it's kind of stuck on the swirl itself. Let's see. It's like getting stuck on the little, very tippity top of that swirl. There we go. So now we have our little wrap. So I'm just gonna wrap this little end around a bunch of times, and then I'll get to the other end. And so I was thinking originally I was just gonna leave this butterfly as it is. Oh, this does not want to fit under there. There we go. But now I'm thinking there's kind of a gap here on the bottom. I'm wondering if I should do something that dangles from the bottom. All right. one more, I think, and then we'll be even with the other side. So you can count your wraps if you want it to be nice and even with the other side. And this little wire just doesn't want to fit under there. Let's see if we can make it. There we go. I think that's even. It's just a little bit on the other side. It's a little bit closer this way. So now I can trim and tuck away that little wire end. Just gonna curve it downwards. Oops. Kind of broke a little bit there. That's okay, there's still plenty left to tuck away, so I'm just pressing that down and I've tucked that away. So I'm gonna do one more wrap around both so it matches the side, and we have the two wraps there as well, like this. And now just wrapping around this wire only. These are the tedious things, all these little connections and wraps that you have to do, but it's very important because without them things would move out of place and wouldn't actually stay together or be connected. Let's see. Let me kind of push that together, and I think that's good. So I can just trim that, and I can press that down. All right, so now you can be finished with your butterfly, or let's see if we can make a little dangle for it. All right, so I managed to find some little beads here that I think will be cute. One is a flower and one is just a bead, because the flower is really small, so I didn't want to do it by itself. I think next to the butterfly it'll be pretty lost. So I cut myself a 3-inch piece here. And what I'm gonna do, because I want the end of this to be to hold my beads. I don't want the beads to fall off, so I'm making a swirl, but this is gonna be like the teeny tiniest swirl that you can possibly do, because it's just about holding the little beads in place. So let me even just smush it a little bit with my pliers to make it even smaller. Like that. And now I can grab my beads. So I think I'll do this little crystal one and then the little flower. So it's maybe like a flower and then like a drop of nectar or something. So I think this will be a good dangle. The way that the loop on this has to go is it has to go this way in order to, you know, hang like this. So if you hold it like that and bend it to the side, it'll go like this. And then you just want to make the loop. Like that. Now before we finish off this loop, we of course want to attach it to the butterfly. So let's kind of open it up a little bit, wiggle it on here. There we go. So here it is. So now we can go ahead and finish off and close this loop. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of bring these wires together because they were separated so that I can attach. And now I'm going to see if I can get in here with my pliers just to hold while I wrap this little wire end here. So I'm just gonna wrap the wire end a bunch of times because there's quite a bit of space there. Now I'm gonna tighten up that little wrap that I made, and the little end of it, I'm gonna cut it so that when I press down on this little end, it's not facing us, it's facing the back. That way it's sort of hidden. You can't see it from the front. So pressing down on that little end. And now here is our dangle. You can't see the wire end. It's here on the back. There it is. And we have a little dangly flower and this like little honey drop dangling from our butterfly. So totally optional. If you like the look of that, feel free to do that if you have beads that you think go well with your butterfly. So that's it. Here's the finished piece. I think it's pretty fun. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.